Hello and welcome to the Cryptocurrency News channel. Well, there's a former Canadian PM, Stephen Harper, the man who was so popular that he had to be defeated by the mighty Justin Trudeau, that guy. He said Bitcoin could be a possible future reserve currency. Now, if you read the article, Bitcoin is not going to be the sole reserve currency. It's going to be part of a basket of reserve currencies. And I think he actually has a point. If you're thinking that Bitcoin is going to be the sole reserve currency for the future, it's going to replace the US dollar by itself, that's definitely not going to happen. However, he's talking about a basket of like Bitcoin, gold, and other currencies, which actually includes the US dollar. And it'll probably still be pretty heavily tilted towards the US dollar if you have a basket of currencies. So the US dollar won't be the sole reserve currency. It'll be a part of a mixture that includes Bitcoin. That's his opinion. And actually that makes a lot more sense than, Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency or gold becoming like the new reserve. Because I think like any country, any of the large powerful countries are going to want a reserve that they can somehow control and they can print a little bit more of. Remember, if you can't print any more money, like when a country has a disaster, you can't give any aid because you can't just give them money. You have to take from someone else and no one else is going to be willing to actually give you money. And relying 100% on donations, we know that's a failing strategy. So that doesn't really work. This is not going to happen anytime soon, but it's a big process that if it does happen, it'll happen, slowly via the next 5, 10, 20 years. I think in the next 5 years, the US dollar is definitely going to be the reserve. Next 10, probably. But as you get on into the decades, I do think with the growth of something like cryptocurrency, you could possibly see USD not being the sole reserve currency anymore, and a basket of USD, gold, other currencies, Bitcoin, silver, and other precious metals could actually be the new reserve currency. And this is from CoinDesk. Stephen Harper said the number of things that people use as reserves will expand, but the US dollar will still retain its dominant role. So like I said, the USD isn't going anywhere. Even if they change the reserve where it's not solely the USD will probably still be like 50, 60% of it. And for it to be not the sole, for it to lose some dominance, it will take a process of many, years, if not decades, probably decades. Stephen Harper, an economist and former Prime Minister of Canada, said Bitcoin could potentially see use as a reserve currency, but it isn't going to supplant the US dollar's international role. So he actually thinks the US dollar's international role will actually stay, and I actually agree with that. In an interview with Cambridge House's Jay Martin on Sunday, Harper acknowledged that the dollar had been on a downtrend, but said there are a few viable international alternatives, even looking at the euro and the yuan. The yuan's really not that much of an alternative. You can't trade it on the free market, so obviously it can't be the reserve. And the euro, well, it's more flimsy than the dollar, so you don't want it to be the reserve. Unless the US becomes a catastrophe, which, may actually happen because, if you saw what happened last week, not giving people too much confidence, it's hard to see what the alternative to a US dollar as the world's major reserve currency is. Now, if the US is suddenly if Yellowstone erupted and the US gets owned, then it'd probably be the euro right now, but right now it's going to be the US dollar for the foreseeable future. Other than, gold, Bitcoin, a whole basket of things, right, said Harper. I think you'll see that the number of things that people use as reserves will expand, but the US dollar will still be the bulk of it. So, if we can get down to only 50% US dollar, I think that'd be a big improvement. Because, being the reserve currency, it has, obviously beneficial benefits to the United States, but it also has drawbacks as well. Harper stressed he is not an expert when it comes to digital currencies, but said it is hard to see how they operate as a store of value, something pretty critical for a currency. So I think Bitcoin's really evolving towards that, but Bitcoin's probably the only one. The former conservative prime minister explained that every currency has three purposes: as a medium of exchange, as a unit of account, and as a store of value. He acknowledged a digital currency is certainly a medium of exchange and can be a unit of account, but it is difficult to see how Bitcoin can act as a store of value. I think if you look at the scarcity of Bitcoin and the fact that people actually believe in it, I think you can actually see that. That's because I, as an investor, have no idea what this investment represents. So he's old. He's not really all that technologically. He's not a technological savant, in other words. Harper also addressed the trend for central banks to be considering the launch of their own digital currencies. So obviously CBDCs are going to be part of it for the future. Ultimately, if you have a digital currency and the purpose of the central banks is to control inflation and create a stable currency and price stability, then digital currency is just kind of an evolution of the marketplace. And that's kind of what I've been saying a lot. Yes, this whole reset thing, it's not going to be everything resets and then XRP or BTC takes over. It's just going to be digital, physical fiat transformed into physical digital fiat, which isn't going to be that big of a deal because all our credit system in the United States kind of works on that anyways. So I don't really see some kind of like massive large reset. I think people have been yelling for that like every year, and then it's never happened, so they just like push it off until the next year. But I do see like a new way how money is moved digitally rather than physically, and it's going to be much, much faster. As for Bitcoin, even if it's like 10% of the reserve currency, it can appreciate massively in value. And of course, that means a lot of other altcoins are going up too. So overall, very, very bullish news for Bitcoin. So that's the news for today. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe and hit that bell notifications button. Thank you and have a nice day.